How's it
Yeah, boy! What's this?
Well, good afternoon. It is November 16th, 2025. It is Sunday, and it is also what would have been my dad's birthday.
He would have been 93.
93, but he made it to 90, so he's been gone for about 3 years now. But shout out to Dad, and we are jumping in here on an afternoon sesh to drop a little just whatever commentary, right? You
That's
and I.
right.
Rebecca's sitting here with her Freeman sweatshirt, and I got my Freeman hat on and my SOB shirt, which doesn't stand for what you think it might stand for. But
Well,
I guess you can take it for what you want it to be. But yeah, thanks for joining us today. It is a pretty wet week around here. It's raining today, which is nice, actually. I'm kind of enjoying the rain. How much do you love a rainy day, Rebecca? Is it something you enjoy?
I enjoy it when everything is done and I can be inside.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like to be outside when it's raining. If it's a light rain, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But when it's hammering down, I prefer to be inside.
Yeah.
Be toasty warm.
Yeah, you betcha. We've kind of had a little bit of what they call an atmospheric river this week. And I don't know if it's been all of that. It hasn't been that much here, but in Southern California, they, had some flooding and stuff, which is kind of uncommon for them down there. They don't get a whole lot of rain. And so, but yeah, it's been wet and it's been kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me really glad that I'm not living on the street. Makes me very glad that we have a home, a nice place to, be safe and outside of the elements. And I think that if you have such a thing, you should be very thankful for that.
Yes, even if you have a car.
Yeah. Yeah. Some way to get out of the elements. I mean, it's obviously very important. And if you think about it from the standpoint of preparedness, everybody who has some kind of shelter is in some ways preparing for something, right? Even the guy living on the street that might just have a tent or might be living underneath a bridge.
Absolutely nothing, or absolutely better than nothing. I mean, we have spent some nights in a tent.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. That was by choice that we did that. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to maybe having the opportunity at some point to get out and do a little bit more backpacking, you and I. That was quite enjoyable. And
it was. I didn't anticipate I would like it as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously at one point I really wanted to go home. I was hot and I was tired and I was stumbling.
Mm-hmm.
But we kept going and I'm glad that we did.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the thing you enjoyed about it the most, I guess, that you had an unintended, not expected?
I don't think that I really gave it much thought of how conditioned you get when you're out there. I really didn't give it any thought that I would be in as much shape as I was from doing all of the hiking, and how easy it became over the time, that we were able to add more miles the more we did it. Not only add the miles, but we were adding them and doing it at a faster rate.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started out doing maybe 11 miles and that took us all day, we ended up being able to do 20, 26 miles, roughly the same amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just you can say that about anything though, right? The more you do something, the better you get at it, the easier it becomes, the more, more of a callus that you develop for it.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is that there's a lot of things that we feel are important. And when you're out on the trail, you find out how not important those things are.
You mean as far as things you're carrying or other things?
A variety of things. One, the way you smell.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
For me, it was like makeup and having my hair done,
Yeah.
and feeling that was a necessity of where it really wasn't.
Yeah.
How good food tastes, even though it was something you would never prepare if you lived at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Just actual food, right? A burger
just
or
food.
a shitty piece of pizza. You're just like, oh, this is the best pizza ever.
Or a ramen bomb.
Yeah.
It's amazing at the end of the day
Right.
how delicious that tastes.
Right. Yeah. No, we started out trying to do this, obviously ultralight backpacking, go as light as possible. And one of the ways you can do that is to not take a stove and to really go light on your meals. And we were going to cold soak our meals. But for me, the cold soaking was just not working out because that was one of those things at the end of the day that I really, really looked forward to, is having a hot meal to put in my belly.
Mm-hmm.
And whether, like Rebecca was saying, whether it's, instant mashed potatoes mixed with
top ramen, if you could imagine.
Yeah, top ramen. And, it just tastes delicious. But just having something warm that's kind of satiating, that was pretty cool. I think for me, the thing that I was unintended that I didn't realize until getting out there, and then it became something that I just was like, wow, this is so amazing. It enhanced the whole thing for me, was just the people that you meet along the way.
They were awesome.
Yeah, just random people, and then finding out that they're willing to do things for you that you hadn't really expected, and it just made it even that much more special, So I think that the people were a part of it, and then just not knowing what you're going to find down the trail. You're not going to know what tomorrow brings. And I think that's one of the things that really attracts a lot of people to it. And to your point, I've heard a lot of girls, a lot of women say that, where it's like, you know what, I just can get out there and I don't have to worry about putting on makeup and whatever and looking a certain way. They just get out there and they're dirtbag hikers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an interesting and unique experience that I'm glad we were able to do. I look forward to being able to get back out there sometime.
And the scenery, even if you're going through, say, a stretch of real estate or property,
Mm-hmm.
That is not that far from your home area, and you see just amazing sights that if you didn't hike up that high, you wouldn't see. You wouldn't know that they were there. How beautiful the land is around you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Being able to step outside of your comfort zone, and then, like I say, finding things that are super cool right close to home that you didn't even know existed. Right. So that's awesome. Yeah. How are your workouts going, by the way?
Well, I did start getting back in this past week and a half. And so I'm starting to increase the mileage from 3 to today it was 5. It was kind of interesting because when I was out there, I was thinking, it's misty. The weather's not all that great. I'll probably just do about 3. Oh, I could probably squeeze in 4, but 4 is going to be it. And then as I got closer to the 4, I was like, I could do another mile.
Mm-hmm.
So I pushed it and got in that extra mile.
That's interesting that you said that. And I hadn't thought of, I've thought of it, but it's what I'll bring up is just that so much of what people think is an obstacle because of what their mind has told them is an obstacle and that they can't do. Mm-hmm. And a perfect example for you and I to realize is that when you're doing something physical, like when you're going out and you say, oh, I'm going to run a 50K, or I'm going to run a 10K, or I'm going to run a 5K, your mind has made up the decision that you're stopping at 5K. And so that's when the effort is gauged toward. But if you go out there with the mentality you're going to go further, your mind sets that as the parameter. And it's amazing how much more you can do if you can convince your mind to push to do those things. And so a lot of what we do physically we're limited by our own belief in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, that's a good example of that.
And for me, I like to and I guess interact with the things I meet on the way, if it's people, somebody's animals, somebody's horses,
Right.
or whatnot. Because, the horses love to run up to the fence because they think I have something for them. I don't, but they're kind of fun to talk to as I go past them.
Right. Yeah, I don't actually like interacting with, people are fine, but my interactions frequently are dogs running out into the street and barking at me. And so I actually had a guy stop me on today's run right before I got to the place where a dog comes out. And I was already prepared. I had a rock in this hand and I had a rock in that hand because if that dog would have come out, I'd have fucked him up. Because he's a big old dog and he comes out and he gets really aggressive and I have to confront them. That's one of the things that I've learned throughout the years of doing this, running or riding, is if you confront the dog, chances are the dog is not going to pursue you any longer because they realize, oh, this is somebody I don't want to mess with. And so I always stop, I square off, I start fucking yelling at the dog. If I have something in my hand, I'm going to tune him up with that. I've actually kicked the shit out of dogs out there. It's what needs to happen because dogs shouldn't be running out, attacking people in the street when they're just doing their exercise. But nonetheless, I had this guy stop me today, just shy of where that dog had come out. And he was like, hey man, he says, I'm the guy that lives in that house right across the street. And he said, that dog that came out and attacked you the other day, he said, oh, his name is, he told me what his name was. I can't remember, but he says, oh, that's so-and-so. And he's a big baby. He's going to do that, but he's not going to bite you. And he says, I just wanted to let you know, I tried to get a hold of you at the time, but then you just kept on running. Right. I actually stopped and I was going after that dog. I was running back after him because I was pissed. And, I ran him back onto his property and I heard that guy, trying to get my attention and I just turned around and kept going. But that happens frequently. So I don't like the dogs that encounter me, but you've got a couple of friendly dogs that come out and visit with you, which is, I guess, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do. Speaking of dogs, we've brought it up before when we lived here with our kids. We had a dog come down the driveway.
Skippy.
Well, he had this kind of a skip to his run. And so our kids pretty much named him Skippy, although the dog actually belonged to somebody else. But he came to our house because of the kids and stopped coming. However, a couple days ago, there was a dog roughly the same size that came running down our driveway. And I mean, immediately I thought of Skippy, but the dog was terrified of me when I said something to it. It turned around and ran away. Yeah. However, later in the day, that dog came running back down the driveway. So I don't know if it was lost. It had a collar on.
Right. So
I don't know if it was lost. Somebody decided they didn't want it anymore, dropped it off, or what. I don't know. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. Got a lot of critters showing up around here. I actually saw the feral cat out there this morning sleeping in the little area where I got the sawdust and stuff. It was just watching me because it's raining outside and it was in there tucked in nice and warm. It was just keeping its eye on me. So yeah, it's good to see. Good to see the wild critters when they're just making this their home. Yeah, because there's plenty out there to eat.
Yes.
Rodents and things for them to get after.
Providing they don't want to attack you.
Or shit in my garden boxes, which brings to mind, I just top dressed one of my beds yesterday, and we went up and we bought some lettuce starts. And so that was part of the plan, is I was going to get the lettuce started this today, but hell, it's raining. I'm just not into getting out there and trying to do that when it's raining. So we are inside with the fire going and nice and cozy. It's nice.
So I have to say the same thing about the pool. I start to clean it. Rain comes. It's a little bit difficult to want to stand outside and clean a pool and pouring down rain. Yeah. So I let it go. And poor thing. It's never going to be top shape here.
Right.
Till we get a little stretch of clear weather.
Yeah. Or it gets cold as hell and all the algae dies. But anyhow, I've got a number of different things I was going to kind of talk about tonight, and they're very random as usual. This isn't going to be anything super structured. So if you are new to Porterhouse and Teal Live, this might be something a little different. But if you happen to frequent this broadcast from time to time, this won't be anything out of the ordinary because it will be super random and just kind of off the cuff. But I jotted down a few things I wanted to talk about from things that I was thinking about this week, because I think about things from time to time. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Rebecca, is what do you think about presidential pardons? When you hear somebody's getting a pardon, what do you think? Do you think, what do you think about when you hear somebody got a presidential pardon?
It depends on what that pardon was for.
Well, that's just it. But it could be for a lot of different things, right? Mm-hmm. We know that. But just what is your gut instinct when you hear somebody got a pardon?
Again, that could be for a variety of things. But if they're getting a pardon and your gut instinct is they're getting that pardon because maybe they know a little too much and you don't want them to spill the beans, that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's something in it for the person that's pardoning the person? Do you think that, like you said, that this is a kind of a payback in a way? Do you think that they are somebody who's connected to some higher ups somehow? I mean, do you see yourself getting a presidential pardon?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So the average person probably wouldn't get that. So what do you think when you probably somebody who's connected, correct?
Yeah, there's some kind of benefit that they're going to receive from that.
Yeah. Like if I brought cocaine onto the White House and I was involved into some nefarious bullshit, then I might have something coming if I was Joe Biden's son or, one of the Clintons or something like that. You got to be connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You don't just get a presidential pardon being a nobody. But have you ever heard of a guy named Michelino Sunseri?
I have not heard of that particular person, but when I was growing up, the kids I babysat's last name was Sunseri.
Okay.
So I've heard of the last name, but not that particular person.
So the answer to the question originally is no. And I would say that most people that are listening to this probably will have not heard of that person either. But he's somebody that got a presidential pardon from Donald Trump about a week ago. And I find it very interesting because this person actually is from the trail and ultra running community. Yes. Yeah, that look you just gave me. Yeah, that's like the look that I had when he got the pardon, because my question is how would Trump even know to give this person a pardon? But I think my take on pardons is I usually think, this person is probably fucking crooked. They probably don't have it coming. I know that if I did some shit that they did, I probably would deserve whatever punishment maybe I'm getting or not get it at all. But this guy's actually deserving of the pardon, because as ridiculous as this whole story is, what this is stemming from is last year, Michelino Sunseri, he's a sponsored ultra runner with the North Face. And he went out to set an FKT at the Grand Teton Trail, which is in the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. And for anybody listening that does not know what an FKT is, that means fastest known time. It's an acronym for fastest known time. And that's a real thing for people trying to go from point A to point B, or to create, to do this specific loop that others have done. It's kind of a big deal in the endurance world to go out and maybe do the fastest from the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail or any one of a number of different routes and trails. Well, this guy actually, he set the FKT, but it was learned that he had cut a switchback, which was in a portion of the trail that was marked closed. And the Park Service decided, we're going to go after this guy and convict him. And so he was actually convicted on a misdemeanor charge is a federal charge that he had cut this switchback, and they actually wanted to like drop it, but the feds pursued it. The Park Service wanted to drop it, but the feds said, "Oh no, we're going to go after this guy for whatever reason," and went to convict him. And then Trump got word of it and basically pardoned him, which I thought, that's very deserving, because I mean, what the fuck? Why is the federal government, why is the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, going after this guy, trying to put him behind bars and make him pay a fine and do all this other stuff for cutting a switchback on an FKT on a fucking trail?
So my question to you is,
Yes.
by cutting the switchback, did it shorten the mileage?
You know, I don't have that specific detail or knowledge about it all. This was a record that was, I believe, held by Killian Jornet.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he broke the thing, and I don't know all the details about how it was learned that he had done it and who told on him and all this other shit. I don't know all that. All I know is that the Justice Department, the federal government, was going after this guy to try to convict him for cutting a switchback on a trail.
Which, yes, is absolutely ridiculous, because there are worse crimes out there that they could go after.
Would you think? You know, so anyhow, Trump got word of this, and which begs the question, how did he even get the word? Because you think you think he's paying attention to the trail and ultra running community? Of course not. He gets people coming to him all the time saying, "Hey, I've got this, would you pardon this person?" And so I'm wondering maybe who that might have been. There's maybe a number of people that it might, you know, fit that bill. But I was thinking, maybe, have you heard of Cameron Haynes? Cam Haynes is a bow hunter. He's a very popular influencer. He's got a huge YouTube channel. He's huge on all the media stuff. He's a runner that does all this stuff. But I mean, he's really known for his bow hunting. But he's also a buddy with Joe Rogan. And anybody a buddy with Joe Rogan is kind of almost by default a buddy with what's his name from UFC. And he's Dana White. He's tight with him. So again, I mean, you're at a certain level, and then there's going to be some form of, "Hey man, would you do me a favor?" Right? Mm-hmm. So I guess my point is it's stupid as hell that the federal government's wasting this amount of taxpayer dollars going after something so completely innocuous. But the funny part is I'm wondering, if that had been me, would I have gotten the same pardon? I mean, he probably would have if somebody had put him onto it, but who knows me, or who's connected to me that would like have the ability to reach Trump, in other words, you know. But I thought it was pretty cool, right? Mm-hmm. So anyhow.
It is cool.
Yeah. So, been working.
I was thinking, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the different groups when you were talking about your new exercise apparatus, and you were talking about the different groups that they have.
You mean my Swift bike? Yeah.
And one of the groups was the Black Riders or something like that.
Sure. Okay.
So I was thinking, well, you might, if you join the Black Riders, that might work its way all the way up to Trump, and you could get a pardon.
Okay, we can talk about that too, I guess. So Rebecca was kind enough to get me this bike, and I'll tell you what, it's been a great addition to my fitness routine. I did a ride yesterday. I did a race. You can race people and whatnot in these different races that they have. And I hadn't had my heart rate that high in probably about 10 or 12 years. I didn't even know my heart could go that fast anymore. Because as you age, your heart rate, your maximum.
Oh, I'm sorry, but there is a bug flying around.
Are you going to beat yourself up?
Probably. Just start slapping myself.
Man, that was good. I'm going to have to replay that just to watch. But anyhow, as you age, your maximum heart rate declines. And so I didn't know that my max heart rate could even get up to and what it got up to yesterday. And so it's been really cool. But anyhow, I was talking to Rebecca this morning, And I was showing her that they have these different groups in there, and some of them tickled me because I thought, oh, how fucking woke is this? This is ridiculous. They had one that was like a group for LGBTQIA group or whatever, you know. And so I clicked on it to read it, and it was saying, oh, you can, you know, ride with people that are, you know, like-minded and everybody's inclusive and da-da-da-da. And all right, well, that's great. Fine. And then they had another one that was like for Black riders. And, man, I'm just not about that. I'm really just not about racial identity. Some people are really are you going to start smacking yourself again?
Can you see it?
Yeah, he's all over you.
It's driving me crazy.
You need to take a bath.
I probably do.
Yeah. Some people are really all about racial identity. Now he's on me.
You probably need the. Say that again. You probably need to take a bath too.
You're having problems, man. So some people are really into the racial identity, and I'm just not that guy. Is he on your face again?
Yes.
I was approached, and I don't know I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago when I worked down in CZU as an engineer.
It's going to drive me crazy.
I could see that. I was approached by somebody who said, hey, would you be a part of this Black firefighters union? And I was like, you know, I'm just not into that, man. And he kind of kept being a little bit persistent, like, you know, hey, man, this is like, it's really awesome. You should, And I finally just had to tell him, I said, look, man, I'm just not interested in joining your group right now. That's not my jam. And it just never sat very like comfortably with me, because I just am not about that. I think that people should be judged on their merit. I think that people should be looked at as far as what they can contribute, rather than looked at for the color of their skin or some other defining characteristic that they align with. And I don't know, it was a problem for me.
See, it's not just me hitting myself.
Yeah, I got him, I think. No, I think I missed him. But anyhow, at the race I was at, I don't know if you remember, but at the race that I was at a couple of weeks ago, the 100-miler, I had come through mile 44. And as I'm coming through, after I'd gotten aid from you, and I'm running past the timing mat and the aid station table, I come into this group of ladies. They were, you know, Black ladies, and they saw me and they were like, hey, how's it going or whatever. And it actually, the one lady looked pretty familiar to me. And it turns out that I've actually seen her. We've kind of crossed paths at a couple of races from this last year. And so she had reminded me of that in our latest email exchange. But nonetheless, she approached me and she's like, hey, you know, we're running this da-da-da, you know, I'd like to introduce you to this person. And, you know, we need more runners and stuff for me walk. And, you know, would you be interested in being on our team? And I said, well, you know, maybe, that, you know, okay, that's cool. I don't know what it entails or whatever. And then, she says, yeah, why don't you give me your email? And so I exchanged email with her and stuff, but then she kind of hinted that, oh, this is like kind of a thing for Black people. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not so good with that. And so when I got back home, they sent me an email basically saying, hey, you know, it was great meeting you and we'd love to have you on the team and and all this stuff. And so I basically, at that point, I wasn't going to lead them on to suggest that maybe there was a chance for me to want to do this. I guess politely declined, you know, stating that I'm not interested in being a part of a group right now. I didn't say it's because, you know, you guys are doing this Black group or whatever. I just, you know, I'm not into groups right now. I said, however, if you do have, you know, some people that might need a pacer, I might be interested in coming down and just in that capacity, but I'm just, you know, it was great meeting you and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm just not comfortable with that.
I can understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why shouldn't I want to embrace, you know, being a part of something like that? Why would you think that would bother me?
Well, why are you getting something special just because of the color of your skin? Shouldn't it be the same for everybody? Regardless of the color of your skin, shouldn't you be judged on merit and your ability to do something as opposed to?
You should be. But I also do feel as though there's a place for individuals who maybe haven't been exposed to something to like have a group or a place where people reach out to them and say, hey, look, this is something that's available to you. There's a lot of people within the inner cities, whether they're black or whether they're a different color or different ethnicity, they've never been exposed to some things.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have somebody to reach out and say, hey, man, this is something that's available to you. Like, look, there's other people that are doing it that, maybe you identify with them in a certain way. I think that's fine. But my problem with it is I'm already fucking doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the exposure. I'm already doing it. So I don't need to be a part of it to say, oh, I'm a black guy in your fucking club. I have a problem with that. One of the races, Western states has an entry for people set aside in their lottery process for people that are what's called BIPOC. It's a BIPOC lottery entrance. And what BIPOC means, it's another acronym, because of course we have to have acronyms for everything in society, but it stands for Black and Indigenous People of Color. And so I guess if you're, something other than white, you qualify for this. And again, if they were to say, oh, you get in because of this, I'd say, yeah, you fucking keep that. You keep that, man, and give it to somebody who like maybe can use it. I don't want it. And that's just the way that I am. I don't like being given something because of that or wanting to be a part of something because of like my melanin.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be based on who you are as a person, what you're bringing to the table, what your value is outside of like, oh, this is your color. I'm completely cool with people having whatever clubs they want to have. If you want to have like something to promote, white Europeans from Scandinavia, you want to have a club for that? People with fucking blue eyes that are underrepresented? I'm cool. That's fine. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people should be able to have whatever club they want to have and associate with whoever they want to associate with. I'm total free choice, but that doesn't mean I want to be included into your little club based on that. So anyhow.
Yeah. Well, you have the right to say yes or no.
And I did. So, working in the chicken yard this week, and moving compost in, or not compost in, but just a lot of leaves and chicken bedding and stuff like that. I've started to maybe put together a little bit of what I'm doing. I haven't done any editing to any video or whatnot, but I plan and intend on putting my next video out will probably be something related to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have those little pullets that are freaking ravenous. They're eating they're not eating as much as they'd like to eat. I'm giving them a 5-pound feeder, and that's done inside of 4 hours. They're just ravenous. Well, there's 35 birds too. So they're just like growing and very hungry and very thirsty. They're going through that 5-gallon water every 2 days.
Yes. I noticed that they're doing that fast.
Yeah. So it's just been one of those things, but I'm actually going to probably be clipping their wings and getting them out of the coop. I think they're almost big enough where they're not going to squeeze out of the cattle panel, but I'll probably be doing a little content on that as well. So I'll need your help. Do you think that's something you can help me with?
Yes, absolutely.
Rounding them up and doing all that. But yeah.
Speaking of the chickens, 15 eggs today.
Wow.
I anticipated them not having as many because the weather was cold, and they seem to kind of hunker down. And when they hunker down, they usually end up breaking an egg or two.
Yeah. We've got
they surprised me.
Yeah, we've got a few free riders out there, I think, probably. but we'll have those other pullets coming on board here. Yeah, it's going to be a minute because they just hit 9 weeks. And so in order for them to start laying, it's going to be at the very earliest, it's going to be about 18 weeks. So we got to go half again as much, another 9 weeks. And then we should start seeing them
Little eggs.
start popping out some robin eggs and some double yolks and some weird eggs until they get it sorted out. But once they come online, we're going to have eggs like for days.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because the deli that purchases eggs from us usually gives me a box to put the eggs in, and it holds flats of eggs. This time, they gave me 3 boxes in the event.
Yeah. Well, do you know this is a winter? This is, this is when chickens generally kind of like don't lay too good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wishful thinking, I guess. I had a couple questions here from Q&A. I thought I'd just talk about, and this one's from D. Allen. This particular question is revolving, or not revolving, but it's on the brooder plate video that I had done. I did a review on the brooder plate from Tractor Supply. And that video is again starting to kind of get a little traction because people right now are brooding chicks for next year. Some people are. And of course, being winter, this brooder plate also works to just be a heater for your chicken coop. So if you're in an area where you've got very extreme cold temperatures, you could set this thing up in there and it's going to radiate heat, kind of taking the chill off of what you got going on there for your chickens. But this person wrote, D. Allen said, great review. And this might be what I'm looking for. If you can clarify, the on-off switch is mechanical and will not automatically turn off, I assume, ? I want to plug this into a thermostat that will turn this heater on at 0 degrees Fahrenheit and off when it is warmer than that. We get down in the minus 30 degree Fahrenheit, usually for a short time every year here. This will only work if the heater has a manual switch that can stay on at all times. Some heaters, you need to actually depress a button every time it is plugged in, and that will not work for me. The turning off at 195 degree Fahrenheit overheating function is fine for my purposes. And so I just responded to him and said, yeah, the switch is a mechanical rocker switch. So it toggles between on, like the low setting, and in the middle it is off, and then you toggle it all the way to the other side, and it's the high setting. And so it's basically, preset at certain temperatures. And in this video that I did my review on, I basically used a heat gun to kind of indicate what those temperatures were. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but a lot of people watched that video because this is it's a brooder plate that's quite a lot of people have access to, given the fact that they stock it at Tractor Supply. But it is something that I feel as though I would recommend people buy if in fact they're looking for something like this. I'm sure there's other things out there, but this is just what I wound up picking up, and then did a subsequent review that, a lot of people have watched. And again, I don't get anything from mentioning that or whatever. It's just like, some people have an interest.
So could you plug that into a timer and it go on?
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You could plug that directly into your timer that goes in, and you can set your timer up to like come on at a certain time or whatever. He's talking about setting it up, and putting some kind of maybe a thermostat in the area that he's looking for the temperature to be, regulated in. Right. Okay. And then I had one other comment I thought I would mention, because I hadn't really ever got this question, but I think it's a valid question, because when Frank the Kill Guy came out and butchered our steer, I've had the same question to him, and I asked him what it was for. But if you notice in that video, he attaches a white tag to the tail of the animal's hide. And Jeff Pitts was basically just saying, I scrolled comments but didn't see the question asked. What was up with placing the white tag on the tail? Genuinely curious. And so basically what that is it's a tag that's required by the USDA, Department of Agriculture, requires that for mobile processing units that are coming out and doing that. That's just a part of the federal requirement that they're supposed to follow. And it identifies the carcass. It ties that carcass to that animal throughout the remainder of the processing, which makes it also easier for them to, if they have any like issues regarding food safety, more like a recall or something happens like that, they're able to trace and track. Otherwise, you just got a truck full of all these carcasses and you don't know if it's this guy's beef or that guy's beef. It's a way that they can identify and keep that with the animal. So that's kind of how they do it. And he also put it, tags on the animal, but that's a part of the rest of it too. And, those hides are pretty valuable. And so, it's a way to if you're taking that to have it processed, that's something that they need to have in order to ensure that it's not somebody that just went out and killed somebody's cow and hey, here's this like freaking hide, it's like tagging a deer in essence. Right. So just a requirement, but that's it for Q&A. I had dug up a quote because I think this kind of goes toward some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. And it's about education. I think education is one of those things that many of us take for granted. It's also very important, not only a standpoint of like shaping everything you know about anything, but your worldview and who you are as a person and everything. And so much of, I think, what we rely on in education comes from, not only what you get at home, but for many of us, education comes in the form of what we get through public education, through public schools, and then, maybe going on to higher learning if that's some direction you want to go with the remainder of your life. But this is a quote, Rebecca, and I think it's a pretty good quote, but you have to tell me, and I'm not going to ask you what this person's political affiliation is or anything like that, but because I don't really think it matters. The quote goes as such: education is what remains after one has forgotten everything he learned in school. It is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education. I'll read it one more time. Education is what remains after one has forgotten everything he learned in school. It is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education.
So I would interpret that as you never stop learning, in essence. You may have learned a bunch of stuff in school that did not pertain to what you were doing after, but your curiosity of wanting to learn things carries on throughout life.
Yeah, I suppose that's one way to interpret that. The way I interpret it is it's kind of a dig at formal education. That's the way I see it. And that quote, believe it or not, came from somebody who's really not looked at as being somebody who knew what the fuck he was talking about. So maybe you shouldn't give it that much weight, a quote like that, but it actually came from Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was a good quote.
Because if you think about it, there's so much that we're taught in school that you don't use. But continuing to want to learn and curiosity of doing that, you are self-educating yourself and bettering yourself. Anyway, so that was my take on it.
Well, that's a very good take, actually. And let me ask you this: given the fact we're talking about this now, give me 3 things that you learned in social studies or U.S. history that is something that you use today.
I cannot say that there is a whole lot.
Give me one thing from either of those 2 subjects that you use today, or maybe even used in your eventual career. You know, if I had the button to push to like make crickets go off right now, I would push that button.
Well, I did take a sociology classes. And in those classes, they're not necessarily things that I would per se use. However, what I learned in them was very interesting. And it covered the whole Holocaust with the Jews. It was sociology of deviant behavior. So
you start talking about Jews, we're going to be getting targeted by the people thinking we're anti-Semites. Better walk that back. Ben Shapiro will be all over us.
No, I'm just talking about things that happened to them. I got to see a lot of footage.
Yeah, that's interesting. Certain things in history are interesting, but are they?
But they have no direct effect on my life, if that's what you want to know.
I guess I would ask you or anybody, what are 3 things, you know, beyond, or not even 3 things, but just beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic? What is something you used in your eventual career that was like a total necessity that you learned in school, public school, K through 12? That's 12 freaking years of your life.
Okay. So when I was in, I had cooking, I had sewing.
Okay.
So school was a little bit different than what the kids get now.
Right.
And those things were, driver's education was in school, learning how to drive a car. PE, there were requirements that you physically needed to do to achieve. So like I say, those were very beneficial and good to carry on through.
But you know what those were? Those were electives, were they not? If you took typewriting, if you were in a typewriting class, that's an elective class. That's not a core class. These other things that I'm talking about, you know, PE was a core class, math was a core class, English was a core class, science, social studies, those were core classes. But all the things that you cited that are real world things, I would agree with you. Those are valid. You know, home economics, those are programs that no longer exist because the educational system that is set up, it doesn't prepare you for actually life. It prepares you to memorize bullshit that you're never going to fucking need. I would say with pretty decent amount of confidence that for most people, including myself, 80% of what I learned for those 12 years was a fucking bunch of waste of time. 20% is stuff that I actually use in my daily life, or I used in my career, or used in what I do. Wood shop, auto shop, shop classes, vocational things like you were mentioning, how to cook. These are all valuable skills that they used to teach us. But the majority of what you learn in public school is bullshit. It's a waste of time. You know, so I would say that a lot of people probably had to memorize the periodic table, right? But wouldn't it have been more interesting and more useful to you as a human being to know how your lungs actually work? So that when you get to a certain age, you'd go, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't vape because I know that's not good. Maybe when you know like real world stuff, it changes your perspective on what's important. But memorizing the periodic table or which dead guy signed the Magna Carta, that's a fucking waste of time. But it's all stuff that you were forced to sit down and, oh, now you've got homework. We're going to have a test at the end of the week. And you better memorize these things, which isn't going to do you a goddamn bit of good the rest of your entire life. But for right now, you need good grades.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bullshit of school. It's crap. And if the education system, and you know, I'm on one right now.
You are on one.
But I'm not like, I don't think it's the fault of teachers. They're just a part of the system that says this is the curriculum and this is what you need to teach to these kids. But what they're teaching them isn't important at all for the most part. I mean, certain things, right? Mm-hmm. We can say that literacy is an important value that will take you very far in life, being able to effectively communicate. These are all things that are very important, knowing how to like add and subtract and all of that. The Amish, what they did, that's about all you need to know, man. 8th grade education. You get up to about that point and the rest of it's hands-on. That's what's going to like be of value. This whole other stuff that they're teaching you to memorize is a bunch of crap. But
for the most part.
But see, we have a system that's set up so that our parents tell us this is what's important. You know why? Because that's the way they learned it. This is important. You do these things, you sit in your chair a certain way, keep your face going toward the blackboard. You don't get out of line. You don't question authority. And when the bell rings, you go to the next fucking class and you remember that bullshit too. And then you come home and then you sit there and you do homework. And by God, you better have decent grades because you know what? If you don't, you're going to be punished.
Our son was punished for that.
Did you punish him?
No, his teacher did.
Why do you?
So our son happens to be very good in math. And in his math class, he failed to do his homework because I think it was kind of boring for him. However, when it came to taking a test, he always got an A on the test. But the teacher passed him with a D because he never did his homework.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the problem with the system. For not seeing what a person is actually capable of or interested in and allowing them to flourish for the things that they actually can do and want to do. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, no, you need to fit into this box and you're going to remember some bullshit. Instead of like maybe teaching somebody what their Miranda rights are. Wouldn't that be something that's like good for you to know so that when you get pulled over from by a cop and you have an interaction with law enforcement, you know what your rights are? But they don't bother telling you any of that. Wouldn't it be nice to know how the stock market moves or how money actually works? Mm-hmm. These are all things that our system is failing and failing our children by putting them into public school and expecting the school to educate your kids on what's important because what they're teaching them isn't important. Think about it. Everybody listening to this that has gone through K through 12, and maybe you've decided you wanted to go through higher learning, how much of that stuff do you actually need for the job that you have today, for the success that you have in life? How much of it is it 100% of what you learned in school, or is it maybe like around 20%? Or is it most of it doesn't apply at all because a lot of it's on the job training?
Well, I can tell you going to college, at least 2 years of your college education is not needed. Yeah. Because there are classes that you're required before you can take classes for your major. Mm-hmm. But those classes have absolutely nothing to do with what you went there to major for.
College is a fucking scam too. It's a huge scam because of the monetary commitment to most of the people that go there. Many of the people that go there, they have to like have a side job in order to afford living on their own and going to school and buying their lattes and their top ramen and all the other shit that they need, unless their parents are paying for all of that stuff. So kids have to have a side job as a barista or, you know, some kind of side hustle, right? But the scam is that when they get out of school, the jobs really aren't there for most of those people, and then they don't know exactly where they're going to go with it, and so they've still, you know, they're stuck with this huge debt. And again, that's not only a failing on the parents' side of things, trying to sit the kid down and saying, hey, well, look, this is like, you got to pencil this out, man. It's going to cost you this amount of money in order to be this thing. But look how long it's going to take you to actually pay it off. You're going to be working for fucking how long? You know, that's somewhat of a failure of the parent for not saying that, but it's also the failure of the individual by buying into what is being promised to them. Some kids come out of college and they got a job. Boom, you know, you get hired right into this thing. But many of them don't. And then they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt and really no life skills. Wouldn't it be great to like learn before you even get to college some things like maybe financial literacy?
Yeah.
Knowing what and how credit cards work and how to pay them off and to be financially responsible. Maybe learning how to electrical wiring. Wouldn't that be more valuable than social studies? Wouldn't learning how to fix a leaky pipe? These kind of just hands-on life skills. What's a Roth IRA and how can that benefit you? Knowing that kind of stuff would be far more beneficial than what they learned at school.
For the most part, yes. There are certain things that you do have to have the higher education for. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, obviously. Right.
But I also think that could easily be consolidated.
It could.
You know, I think it's because of the fact that those jobs are high paying, generally speaking, when you get out, then there's this huge amount of like time that you need to do residency and all this other bullshit. Nobody wants to have a doctor that just got their accreditation like at a Jiffy Lube or something. You want a competent surgeon and everything. So yeah, there are certain jobs I think that it really makes a lot of sense, but by and large, the average person, I don't know. I just have a different opinion on things. Having come from that, right? That's how I was raised. Go to school, get good grades, boom, boom, boom. And then when you grow up and you realize, I don't fucking use any of that. And then you think, we're still doing that to kids. We're still sending kids off to school, having them memorize bullshit. And again, it's not the teacher's fault. They're just doing what they're getting paid to do. It's a system, right? Yeah. Stress management. How about that? Learning conflict resolution, or learning about the environment we live in, ecology. These are all things that like make a person a thinker. You start to learn how to critically think when you learn more about the world around you. Like, oh, hey, how does that work? Instead of just walking into a room and fucking flipping the thing and going, oh, the lights went on. Don't you think it would be much more interesting if you taught kids in grade school, like, hey, this is how the electrical system actually works in your house? Kids would be super into that, man. They'd be like, oh, this is nuts and bolts shit. I can understand. And that makes sense. And then they'd walk into a room with an appreciation of, oh, this is this. And that's when I plug the thing in, that's where, how it all works. But kids don't know any of that shit.
It doesn't even have to go that drastic. It could be simple as how to change your doorknob, how,
Tools.
simple things like that
Yeah.
that kids don't understand.
Yeah. And it's just getting worse, with the AI and all of that. I think AI is great, man. I'm into it. I think it's fantastic. But see, that's because I'm coming from a place of never having that and having to do things a different way and knowing how to do certain things that we're talking about. Whereas other kids that are coming up today, they're not going to fucking know any of this. They're just going to talk to their little like computer person. And then they're just going to be dummies. They're not going to be able to do nothing unless somebody tells them and teaches them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was raised much the same. Being taught what tools are. One of the things that will always stick in my head is your dad telling your mom to go with me down to the barn to get a tool that I would know which tool it was.
What was the tool?
It was like a wrench, or it was something.
Because you were stupid? You didn't know?
No. I would know what it was.
Oh.
He wanted your mom to go.
Oh, because he didn't think she knew?
Because she wouldn't know.
Huh.
But I could tell her what it was.
Huh. Wonder how he knew that you knew.
I don't know. He's probably seen me tinker around the house that we had on the same property.
Right. So this brings something up. Yes, a couple of days ago, when EJ was in there with me, our grandson, who's what, 4? Is he 4?
He's 4.
Okay. So he's 4, and he was in there and he wanted to help me out in the chicken yard. And I was sifting some compost. And so I was putting it up in the screen, and he was, getting his hands in there, and he was helping me do it, and he was getting into it, and he saw this worm, and and I said, hey, check it out, a worm. I picked it up, and he kind of stepped back, and I said, no, man, well, here, pick him up. And he was like, I don't want to pick him up. And so I said, no, hold your hand. I grabbed his hand, I put it out, and I put it in his hand, and he started, worm squiggling around, and he kind of dropped it. And I said, no, pick that up. I said, that's how you go fishing, man. And I said, not only that, the chickens like it. And he was like, and I said, no, pick it up. It's not going to hurt you. So I picked it up. I say, see, look, it's got no teeth. It's got no eyes. It can't hurt you. It's just a little wet. And so he's putting it in his hand, and he's like, got of freaked out about it. And so he fed it to the chickens, and he thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But he thought it was pretty cool. And, I kind of goaded him into it, because I said, you're always telling me you're a man. I said, you got to show me you're a man. Hold this worm, and he did it. But, I was thinking he's probably going to learn more by that deal right there. That's going to be more useful to him down the road than fucking 6 months of preschool. What are you going to learn in preschool other than playing with your mates? Right?
There's a social interaction.
Yeah. You're going to get the social aspect of, you got to learn how to share, and you got to learn how to sit down when it's quiet time, and you got to follow rules, and you got to do all these things, right? You got to, it's nap time, and now it's fucking this time. And that's all just conditioning to get people to a place of compliance, right? That's really all that shit is. But the whole social interaction, I think, is very important. But see, you can get that by playing with friends from the neighborhood or your cousins or whatever. So that's super important, because that teaches social interaction. Mm-hmm. But you don't need fucking preschool for that. But where are you going to learn how to sift compost and then put it in a garden box and then put some vegetables in the ground and grow something from it? That's life skill stuff, man. That kids, a lot of them just don't get, because you ain't getting that in school for the most part. I mean, they might, hey, get a cup with some dirt and put a seed in it, and then you're going to grow a tree, right? But that's about the extent of it. They don't ever really tell you how it all works for the most part.
There are some. Our son went to a school that actually had a garden that grew things. Mm-hmm. So there are some schools that do that. Now we're talking 30 years ago. So they may not now. I mean, it's been a long time since I've dealt with any elementary schools.
Well, they do that out west, that one place, where EJ went, Reed's Creek.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, they've got a garden and they do recycling and all that stuff, which is all super good. I'd much rather see that happening than throwing the stuff in the garbage. Teaching kids that, hey, you can, this is a resource that you can do something with, and that's a very valuable thing to do, because it teaches, again, about like being wasteful and then being resourceful and all of those things. That's a life skill. But I think it just stems from most people are just not that curious. Mm-hmm. And that curiosity, I think, is.
But that's a little country school that we were talking about. So it probably has a different philosophy to it a little bit than, say, one that's in a city.
Do you find that people are not curious, or do you find yourself not being curious, or are you a curious person?
I am curious, and I will look into things, and I may appear as though I am not curious because I don't necessarily share what it is that I'm looking into. I kind of keep it to myself, unless I'm looking up something that I think that would be of value for the kids to know or you to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of that sort of lack of curiosity is just it's ingrained into us, and people tend to want to stick within their comfort zone, basically ignoring new information or shutting down any kind of questioning of things with, well, that's just how it is. I don't want to, it's just, it is what it is, right? We've all heard that phrase. I've used that phrase. It is what it is. And that's when you're no longer curious about why it's that way. You just accept it as being, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. Well, you could do something as far as maybe knowing why it's like that. And then, that would benefit you, because you can make an informed decision on how to shape everything else you do around that kind of an issue.
I am interested in fixing things myself, as opposed to calling somebody to come and make repairs. So if it's something that I can figure out how, I can look up, read, or whatnot, I will do that before I will call somebody else out. Say I need to have a plumber come out because it's something that I'm afraid I'm going to break and run into more problems or whatnot. But when I do, I follow poor plumbers around. I follow them around to watch them, because I'm going to learn what it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
So that I'll know next time how to do it myself.
Yeah. No, that's all real good stuff. I don't know. I just think a lot of people just lack curiosity. We just look at things and we just accept it for what they are. And a perfect example is like trees this time of year, particularly. Trees are amazing, and I like planting them. That's one of the reasons why I've planted so many trees here over the years. I think it's a living and lasting legacy that one can put on their piece of property. Or even if you want to do something that is not on your piece of property, you can find ways to maybe do some guerrilla planting, plant on some kind of a public space somehow, and I'm not telling people to go out and break the law, but there's plenty of places you can do something like that and put in a bulb or something, a plant, a living thing that's going to either be a perennial that will come back year after year, maybe like a narcissus, daffodil, or what have you. Just randomly put them out places. And then when you're there in the spring and you happen to frequent that area, or you drive by, you say, hey, I did that. That's kind of a cool and unique thing to do. But planting trees, again, I think they're just cool. So many different types. But let me ask you this, Rebecca, and this goes to, I guess my level of curiosity with trees, because this isn't something that they really go too deep into in school. But do you know that a tree actually breathes?
I think that I have actually heard that. I don't know exactly the process of it.
Okay. Okay. Would you like to know?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, a tree, it has what's called stomata. And those are tiny pores, mostly on the underside of all the leaves. Many, many, many pores. And those pores basically open up and they take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They convert that carbon dioxide with what they gather from the sunlight into sugars and starches. And that's through the process of photosynthesis. And then that's what makes the tree grow. Mm-hmm. It's producing wood, roots, branches, leaves, all of that sort of stuff. The green stuff that you see in those leaves is called chlorophyll. However, in that process of taking that in, those pores open and close. It regulates based on what the atmosphere is doing. If it's hot out, they're going to open up more and they're going to expel water vapor. But they're also going to exchange gas in the form of oxygen. They provide oxygen to our atmosphere. It's only about 15% of what the total atmospheric load is that we breathe. Mm-hmm. Most of that comes from, I'm getting sidetracked here, but most of that actually comes from algae in the ocean. That's about 70% of all of the oxygen that we breathe comes from the ocean, and it's microscopic algae that's in the ocean, plankton and stuff like that produce all that oxygen. But the other 30% comes from herbaceous plants, trees, perennial stuff like that. So that actually happens. A tree like the ones we have in our front yard, mature trees like that, mm-hmm. depending on the time of year, can expel 100 to 300 gallons of water will come out of those trees daily. And what that does is it not only cools, it's done in the same way that our bodies sweat. Mm-hmm. Our pores open up so that we get evaporation. Their pores open up, the tree, through those stomata, their pores. That's called transpiration. And so they're taking in all of that moisture through root uptake, sucking it into the tree. And then when it's hot, it'll open up. And then that's a way that the tree can kind of cool itself. But it also cools the area around it. It humidifies the air. It puts that water vapor back into the atmosphere. And that water will eventually return to the earth in the form of rain. It may not happen directly above your house, but it can happen, miles away. It can happen hundreds of miles away. That moisture isn't going away. It's going to get carried through transport winds in the jet stream. And it may, be 100 miles from here that a thunderstorm might, and that's water that came from your tree. So,
or a portion.
A portion of, yeah, it's all combined up there. But that's what contributes to the relative humidity and all of those sort of things. But that's one of the things that's really important about having a tree. And when you understand that, when you understand how a tree grows, that it's actually a living thing, you have a much better appreciation for trees. But mm-hmm. you see, you don't get that shit in school. If you had a teacher that would explain that to kids, they would go, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And then they'd come home and say, "Dad, I want to plant a tree. Can we plant a tree, Dad?" And he'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Because he don't know. But that kid would be inspired by hearing all of that, because they would understand. Just like if you told them how that light switch works or how that light switch works, they'd go, "Dad, let's do this project," right?
So what happens when your son does bring home a tree that he grew from a seed and wants to plant it?
Yes, I cut it down. Well, no, it stayed for quite a while, right? He planted that tree from seed.
He was so proud of that.
Tell the story.
Our son in school, he planted a seed. Mm-hmm. He grew a tree. Mm-hmm. He brought this tree home. Mm-hmm. He was so excited about it because he grew it from a seed.
Right.
And so Eric planted it, and it it grew up.
Well, who told him he could plant it there?
That I don't know. I think you planted it there.
Did I?
I think you and he planted it there.
Did we?
I think so.
I wasn't thinking straight then.
But it was pretty close to the pool. And the tree got big. I mean, it
Bigger.
grew.
It wasn't huge, but it was going to be huge.
It was going to be huge, and it was going to be dropping a lot into the pool. Also, the roots probably would have gone underneath the pool deck, and that part I don't know, but possibly. So,
needless to say,
my son and I took a picture in front of the tree before Dad chopped it down.
No, I didn't chop it down. I got my chainsaw out and I took it out because, that's one of the things that you got to like factor in when you put in a tree. You got to know like what that tree's going to do and how it's going to impact the environment around. And what this tree was a ponderosa pine, which pondos are fine. Those are great trees. But they shed a lot of their needles. They've got those very long needles, and they
would have fallen into the pool.
Yeah, it just was not the right tree in that location. And so, like since then, we've planted palm trees over there, which are completely the right thing to put over, like as an aesthetic, as kind of a framework to your.
But those are palm trees that the seeds fell out of existing palm trees that we had here. They sprouted up, and I gently pulled them out and potted them and grew them up. And then we ended up planting them.
Yep. Yeah, they are prolific reseeders, but it's, it's just stuff like that I think that if school was to actually tell people about, maybe how to avoid certain pitfalls in life that they're going to be able to carry forward. Again, finances, they don't tell you anything about that. What they will do is say, hey, you get this thing in the mail, says, hey, you can qualify for this. And this is, you don't have to pay for it or whatever. Next thing you know, you've racked up all this debt on your credit card. But think of how much better off. What's that noise? Hey. What's she doing? I think she was licking herself.
I think you're right.
You can stop doing that now. Thank you. Go to another room or something. But anyhow, those are all things that I think that if they taught kids stuff like that, they'd be like, wow, this is great. I'm learning something that I'm interested in actually, or finding out what the kid's actually interested in and leaning into that.
Did they ever teach you how to grow a potato in school?
I think that was something that we did in one class where you cut it and put the toothpicks in. Yeah, and then it roots and all that. But
right, and then the foliage grows from the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if they still do those things, but I mean, that was kind of cool. You got the hands-on learning.
It is cool, but I think it would be much more cool if they would tell you the whole process of what's happening so that you understand it. Because it's one thing to do something and see like, oh, that's cause and effect, but to really understand the whole process behind it. So you can kind of go, oh, that's like, I can get that. I'm a very visual person. Like in order for me to like figure something out, I kind of have to have a visual representation of it. Whereas other people, you can just explain stuff and then they're just like, they're locked on. I'm not that guy. I gotta see it, man. I'm like, okay, what, do it again. But everybody's different, here's another one since we're on the tree thing and you might find this interesting, but trees, are changing leaves right now. Mm-hmm. And so primarily what you'll see a couple of different colors out there. So if you see trees that are yellow right now, the leaves are turning yellow and or orange. Those trees have what's called carotenids in them. And those carotenids have been there the entire time. From the spring when they first developed their foliage, that yellow was in the leaf. The orange was in the leaf already. The only reason you couldn't see it is because of the chlorophyll that was being produced when the tree was growing was abundant enough so that you couldn't see that. But as the temperature is now like a lot less at night. You got cooler nights, but yet you still have the daytime. That signals to all of these trees that are out there right now, this time of year in the fall, in the autumn, it's time to go to sleep. And so they start shutting down. They start getting ready for slumber. And so there's going to be less chlorophyll production. And when they start producing that chlorophyll, that's when that's going to actually show itself. Conversely, what you'll also see is you'll see some red trees. We have some out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Out this way.
Let me think which ones you're talking about. Red. Those are mostly kind of like yellowish.
They're yellow, but
we've got a few.
But this one, and then on the driveway,
yeah,
there's one.
We've got a few drive on the driveway that are red.
Mm-hmm.
But ones that you'll really notice, and people would be very familiar with, are like a maple. Mm-hmm. Maple trees. They turn red, and that red wasn't always in the leaf. That's a product of something happening within the leaf. And so the same thing's happening. You've got cool nights with the sunny days. It's basically, again, signaling for the tree to stop sending growth into the tree. So all those sugars that were being produced, the sugars and the starches, but primarily the sugars that grow the wood, grow the roots, it's shutting down. And it's shutting down because of that signal that told it, hey, we need to stop producing the chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll production tends to cease. And then about a week later, you wind up with what are called anthocyanins, which is a result of all of that excess sugar being bound up in the leaf structure. So now the excess sugar is hanging out in there, and it's producing that anthocyanins. And then you get those bright, vibrant, red colored leaves. But see, the average person wouldn't know a fucking thing about that, nor would the average person probably even care. They'd probably go, it's just the way it is, man. It just is what it is. Mm-hmm. Because they're the person that's sitting facing forward in class, getting good grades, not worrying about why they're learning something. They're just learning something. But when you know how things work and you have a curiosity to dig into it, it makes life much more interesting. Right? Mm-hmm. Don't you think kids would like to know that kind of stuff? They'd go, oh, wow. So now when they see a tree in the fall, they're going, oh, that one's got excess sugar in its leaves. And that's because it's producing anthocyanin. That's completely like, that's not going to like make or break whether or not you're going to be successful in life, but it just makes life more interesting, and it gives you a better understanding of the world around you is all.
Mm-hmm. And why things are happening.
Exactly. Don't you want to know why? That's called curiosity.
There's certain times that you would like to travel because of the changing of the leaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. We need to get to like the East Coast, man. I want to appreciate what's going on there in Vermont and all those.
It's gorgeous.
New Hampshire and stuff like that. So, man, let me ask you this. Do you think the reason that people in general, do you think the reason we don't assault other people is because there's a law or a commandment against it? Or is it because deep down we know it's wrong?
I think for most people, deep down, we know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you were give it any thought, would you like that to happen to you? Mm-hmm. Your answer is going to be no. So why should you do it to somebody else?
Right.
And that makes sense. And obviously, growing up, if you learn that working together and being cordial with one another, there's more that gets taken care of, and people get along. And there's less violence, and
yeah.
So I don't think that that's necessarily innate in everyone, but in majority of people.
Right. I think that there's people that believe that in order for people to do the right thing, they need to have those boundaries. And I would agree with you. I would say for some people, that is absolutely the case. But then there's other people that just within their nature, they're just not that type of person. And I think it's not it's not a across the board thing where you just say, oh, well, yeah, you need this for everybody. I think you need that for some people. And so that's why laws exist made by the state or commandments as put forth by, religion. I think it's good that we have those guardrails for some people because some people don't know how to fucking conduct themselves appropriately. But it's, I think that people just generally, so let me ask you this. Do you think that a baby would know when somebody's getting hurt if they witness an act of violence against another person, even though they don't really know what violence is? They've never seen violence. So to see it for the first time, do you think that it would be something that they would have a problem with, that would be upsetting to them? Or do you think that it would be just something they'd look at and go, fuck, what? I don't even know what that is.
No, I think that they would know. And internally, I think that they would know that something is wrong, along with sounds and noises that are being made.
Yeah, I would say even if there's no noises, if they just saw somebody getting like assaulted, beat up.
Yes, I believe that they would know.
Right. If they saw blood, I think going back to your original take on it, I would agree with maybe some babies might be more affected by that, or some babies may not be affected really initially at all. But at some point, people know boundaries, regardless of whether or not you've taught them those boundaries. I just think that those are things that they're born with for the most part. When you get like really into somebody's fucking space, they don't like that. They just don't like it.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Right. When you start talking close to somebody and you're in their personal space, it's a reflex that people have. And I think, babies aren't necessarily initially that way. They, especially if it's like somebody they're familiar with seeing. I mean, they probably recognize their mom from the first time they see their mom. And then that face just becomes like imprinted into like, oh, I see that person. That's safety. That's the person that takes care of me and nurtures me. So you can probably pull that off getting up really close in their face or whatever. But at some point that same individual is going to like go, this is not cool.
Yeah. As they're toddlers, they have no problem with you being up close and they want to kiss you or put their face on you or whatnot. But certainly as they get, I'm going to say 10, 11. Yeah. It's like, all right, you're getting too close to me.
Yeah, dogs are like that too. I think that they very much sense people that are threatening. So they sense like, hey, this is uncomfortable. Some dogs just don't like you to be too much in their space. Others are cool. Others are like, yeah, I'm cool with whatever, But it's like
with people they know.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily that way with everyone.
Right. Another thing I was going to ask you, Rebecca, well, which industries do you think are safe from AI?
Jobs?
Yes.
I think things that you physically have to do are probably safe. Plumbers.
Yes.
I'm not going to say, I would say mechanics, but because most of our mechanical beings are now computerized, that's kind of an iffy thing for me. But things along the lines of being a plumber where you have to have the hands on to do things are going to be safe for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I agree with all that. It just makes sense at this point, right? And I guess I feel sorry, not super sorry. It's like, whatever. It's just the way things are going. But I feel somewhat empathetic with those people that have this idea or had this idea at the start of everything, that their careers that they had were going to be safe. And, those are the people that have the bean counter jobs, the jobs that can easily be replaced by technology and are being replaced as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All of the white collar jobs, crunching numbers and coming up with theoretical this or whatever. I mean, AI is an amazing freaking tool. And I don't know at what point it's going to be that it just becomes so commonplace that we don't realize how far advanced it's already become. Many people I still think are not utilizing it, and certainly not utilizing it to any kind of its potential. But there's going to be no avoiding it, because every industry is going to, in order to succeed or move forward into the future, is going to have a part in it in some form or fashion. And they're going to use it because it only makes sense to use it from a business standpoint. If you're the type of person that says, nope, I'm going to just continue to do things the way I always did them, what you're going to find is at some point you'll be having somebody nip at your heels, and then you'll be like irrelevant. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. No?
It is. I find it interesting. Take myself, who has seen telephones go from being hooked to a wall and you physically turn the thing, to being able to punch the buttons, to walking around because they're cordless, to being cell phones, big clunky things.
Well, in my day, I remember.
No, I'm just saying we've seen a lot of changes go.
Yeah.
Where now things are going so fast that it doesn't take, but our grandkids don't know what a telephone is that's hooked to a wall that you physically have to.
Yeah. Why would you need to, though?
A rotary phone.
Who gives a shit? I mean, why would you need to? That's not how we communicate anymore. I mean, we don't Pony Express. We didn't know Pony Express. So, I mean,
I know, but they're going to grow up with AI mm-hmm. and the evolution of that going forward. And I don't know how big, I mean, it's just going to be natural for that to happen. I don't know that they're going to necessarily notice the changes, where when we look back at all the different changes of something to get to this AI mm-hmm. we've experienced, I don't know that they're necessarily going to feel that same experience.
Yeah.
All those changes.
It's going to be interesting. That's all I can say. I'm glad that I'm embracing it, because I think if I was the type of person that said, if I live another, whoever knows how long, 5-10 years.
Oh, you live longer than that.
Maybe. There's no guarantees to anything. Right?
I'm going first.
Because
you're not that good of a caretaker.
What the hell? All right.
I injure myself.
Yeah.
And 2 days into it, you're like, it's been 2 weeks.
That's not true.
It's so
you
true.
Make me out to be this horrible person. Stop it.
Like, it has not been 2 weeks.
Jeez. Anyhow, what's up with old Marjorie Taylor Greene? What do you think about that? What do you think? I mean, she's making all the rounds. She was a pretty vocal supporter of Donald Trump, pretty MAGA, right? Mm-hmm. And she's kind of had a little split as far as wondering what the hell's going on in Washington. Not only with what the administration's been doing with the whole Epstein cover up and everything. I think that's the thing that's got her most perturbed, at least with the Trump administration, but just a whole bunch of different things I think are bothering her. But what do you think's up with her and, making the rounds going on MSNBC and The View and all this other stuff? What do you think's going on there?
I haven't really listened to her a whole lot. I know that she's raising a ruckus over a lot of stuff, but
well, Trump's shit talking her, saying she's low IQ and something's wrong with her, and she's not MAGA and stupid Republicans and all this sort of stuff, right? So that's his take on it. But what do you think about what she's doing? Do you have a problem with her going on? And
I don't have a problem. She can say and do whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
But I can see it go either way. She's either going to drive herself out of her position,
okay,
because she's going to upset the apple cart, shall we say, or her followers, or she's thinking about running for a different position.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. This is just my take on it, just quickly, and then I think we can kind of wrap things up here. But I think that what she's doing is something that I wish more politicians would do, is not just get behind the party and be lockstep in with what the party wants, and to try to keep your mouth shut and look for that next seat at the table when it comes time to maybe, have a committee position or something. I don't think she's really giving a fuck about that. And I think if more politicians weren't trying to climb the ladder, so to speak, at the behest or the expense of the American people, and speaking to what they believe is their core mission, which is serving their constituency, I think that I would be more happy if more politicians did that, but more politicians aren't doing that. So to see her, now being this darling of the left, which is pretty interesting. They're all fucking wanting to see what MTG has to say, right? Because she's not saying nice things about Trump and whatever. They're looking for those angles, which should tell anybody who's a thinking human being with two brain cells to rub together that the media is just there to gaslight people, and they're just there to push a political agenda. So if you already are in that camp of saying, oh, everything Trump does is bad, this is right up your alley. You're going to love that. I'm not in that camp of saying everything that Trump has done or doing is bad. I think that there's many things that he's done that is good. And
there's things he's done that's wrong.
Exactly. But I think people that have the ability to think for themselves are willing to step outside of the party affiliation and speak to the truth. And that's what I think Marjorie's doing. And I applaud her for doing that, because she's taken a bunch of shit from Trump, who, to me, again, that just kind of speaks to the dude's character. I've said this before, but I think he'd fuck his own family over, quite honestly. If they said something bad about him, he'd probably, that person's low IQ and not very intelligent and this and that. That's just bad character, man. Right. And, Thomas Massey is a guy, again, that I think he's out on his own ship there. He has his own constituents in Kentucky, which probably are going to be happy with what he's doing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of money flowing in from opposition people to try to run against him. And then, of course, Trump's not going to endorse him and or whatever. But it is just really interesting that all of the things that they campaigned on about this whole drain in the swamp thing are nothing nobody's fucking talking about anymore. It's all, no, we need to look the other way and we need to do these things that are important. But when you start talking about that, then you're a problem. And a guy that's willing to say, oh, you're not Make America Great Again because you want to clean up waste, fraud, and abuse, or you want to maybe bring some of the money that's being spent abroad so that Israel can support having abortions, that makes you anti-Make America Great Again. I mean, that's just rhetoric. And then I think if people can't look at that and at least think about it and ask the question, why are some of these things being said? Again, you're just that person sitting in your chair in the cheering squad, waiting for the bell to ring so you can go to the next fucking classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think what MTG's doing is okay. I don't know about you, but here's a little clip, if you will. I pulled up a clip. If I can get my mouse to work here. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Hold on a second. All right, let's close that down. So this is what she's kind of talking about.
Support him and his administration, and I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country, and that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families, neighbors, and it's not solving our problems.
So whether or not she means that, whether or not she's a part of the problem, it's up for you to judge. But I think with what she had to say there, I have a hard time disagreeing with any of that. She says she still supports the president, and what he's trying to do with certain issues, but she's got core values, and those core values are standing with, finding the truth for these women who were abused at the hands of very powerful people that now Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino are sitting there saying, well, no, none of this really exists, and we're just going to redact everything and hold everything and all this. It's just it's just quite the dog and pony show. I don't think we'll ever see any of the answers to any of this stuff. And even if anything does come out, it won't be from Trump, because he's right now in control of the Justice Department, or presumably.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't know exactly how much control he actually has. Marjorie has said a lot of things that I would agree with are correct. If she was in the president's shoes, how would that turn out? Would it it end up kind of swaying the same way as Trump? Trump spewed that. Yeah. But he's in a position where I think, the thumb is being pushed down on him.
Good point. Yeah.
And the exact same thing might happen to her.
Good point. Yeah. So if she was president and she's in the Oval Office, she may have the intelligence agencies and everybody else, giving her the what for, like, hey, guess what? We got some shit on you too, dude. So you want to talk shit? I don't think you really do, because check this out. Look at this email. Look at this video. Look at this.
And even if it doesn't exist, they'll conjure one up to make it exist.
Another good point. We're living in a simulation. This is fantastic. Such a great time to be alive, guys.
I mean, when they played what Trump actually said, on what was it, January 6th?
Yeah.
And what it is that they put out there that he said was nowhere close.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty entertaining, man. I don't know. I like thinking about it, but I like trying to be an independent thinker, at least thinking like I'm not just going along with the narrative all the time. You can't go around wearing a fucking free man hat and a free man shirt over here and being an NPC. Got to think about things from time to time, question things, be curious, guys.
And it's definitely interesting looking at people's expressions when you wear this out in public.
Yeah. What do they say?
Kind of like,
what do they say?
You get kind of like a weird look, and then they like smile at you.
Really? Is it because you're a woman, or is it because it's what it says or what it represents?
I don't know that they know what to think about it.
Yeah. 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 It's quite the statement. Yeah. Well, cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. We still got a little bit of daylight outside. I don't know if that really means that I'm going to get out there and do anything about it, but might just go.
It's time to finish up dinner and get in bed.
It almost is, man. I was thinking about getting on my bike and riding. I got my 7-mile run in and I was thinking I'd get a little spin in, but I'm kind of getting tired.
You got like 2 hours
Till bedtime.
till bedtime.
It's
Used to
4:30.
be,
It's
it used to
4:38.
be 8 o'clock. We would get in bed.
Yeah.
It'd be 8 o'clock.
But it gets
We'd
dark
kind
now.
of get comfy.
Yeah.
Maybe fall asleep around 8:30.
Yeah.
A long night would be 9.
Yeah. I got 8.5 hours, 8 hours and 38 minutes last night. She beat me again. You got what, 9 hours and something?
Yes.
Yeah. Sleep is good. Sleep is fantastic. Don't ever let anybody tell you that, I don't need to sleep. 4 hours a night, 5 hours a night. You know what, man? That's not good for you. It's really not. Sleep is such a valuable, rejuvenative, is that even a word? A rejuvenating thing that we all need for our mental, for our physical. You know, you eat the right things in the day and then your body can repair. And you don't have to worry about that if you're somebody who just sits on the couch all fucking day, and eats like shitty food. But if you're an athlete, you're somebody who burns calories, you need your sleep. And you need good food with a lot of protein, especially us, because we're aging individuals. But you know what I learned about aging individuals, at least what they say from the polls. Now, this is just what the polls kind of indicate. Because I was wondering, at what age are most people like most content and happy? And it's about our age. It's from like age 60 to about, just shy of 70 or so, 60 to 70. And that's the age where people generally have more wisdom and they have more accomplishment in life. They're a little bit more financially secure. They have a little bit more freedom and independence. Maybe they're not working any longer and they're retired or coming close to that age, and that's generally from the standpoint of what people say in polls that you're supposed to be like the happiest. And would you say that's not the truth for us at this point or what? We're getting a chance to see our grandchildren. So, I mean, what's wrong with any of that? You get to see things come full circle. And what that does, at least for me, it makes it easier to die. And now I'm not saying...
I don't know that I would have taken it there.
I'm not saying I'm looking forward to that. I'm just saying you can kind of get to that place in life where you're like, yeah, if shit happens, it happens. You don't stress about it because it's not like you got, you've accomplished the things in life that are meaningful, I guess, in other words. And that's kind of the way I look at it, right? Something bad happens, yeah, you fucking deal with it. And, you don't worry about it. You just, man, I had a good run. Like a few more years, but, hey, there's a lot of people that don't make it to our age. Think about that.
True.
Think about that. How many people don't make it to this age? We're senior citizens, Rebecca.
You really bringing me down.
55 plus, man. You're fucking senior citizens. You get the senior plate at Denny's.
When's the last time you've eaten at Denny's?
Oh, Denny's is gross, man. Actually, I ate at Denny's about a year ago. I was coming back from somewhere. It was like 4 a.m. and I'm starving. And I was like, I need some pancakes and some syrup.
And some sausage, or did you get bacon?
Yeah. I got the All-American Slam or whatever it was. And it was gross.
The Grand Slam?
Yeah, the Grand Slam. And the place smelled like freaking stanky old nasty feet or something. You walk in, how Denny's smells when the carpet's nasty.
See, that's the thing about Denny's. I mean, Denny's could put out some food that will fill a hole and
make a turd.
And you could sleep on it. The thing is that they do not reupholster their seats.
Yeah, sometimes they do, but
they
man,
really
it gets kind of rough.
Not really.
Yeah, IHOP's better. IHOP's better gig, I think.
I like Black Bear Diner.
Black Bear's, yeah. Now we're talking food again. What's for dinner?
Ribs.
Ribs from our pig, right?
Yes.
Yes. Country style or baby back?
And these are baby back.
Oh, all right.
They're baby back, but they're not the short ribs.
Yeah, well, the baby backs aren't short ribs.
Right. No,
Yeah.
they're baby back.
Nice.
And then there'll be probably some broccoli to go with it. And then there's going to be some leftover of that sweet potato chowder
Yeah.
to go along, and a salad.
Sounds good. I think we won't bore people with what we're having for dinner any longer, but
They might want to come and eat.
well, they could be invited. Yeah.
Travel a little ways.
Yeah. But anywho, thanks for joining us again here. This has been episode 128 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. This has been a pre-recorded episode, but we want you to know that everything's going well with us. We hope everything out there is well with you guys in the community. And we'd like you to go out and be better tomorrow than you were today.
And I don't always smack myself in the face. There's a bug flying around in this room.
I'm going to replay that because I might make a something out of that.
You guys have a great evening.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.